Bring to order the July 2nd, 2025 Planning Agency meeting of Plymouth meeting. If everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Understanding is 300 Lee Drive withdrew tonight. So we're one item on the agenda, 523, 525, 527 Plymouth Road. Do we have somebody for the applicant?
Yes.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Pianzio. I'm a land use attorney with Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin. I have Sal Payon here next to me. I have Dominic Payon behind me. I have Steve McBrearty, who's our civil engineer. Matt Hammond from Traffic Planning and Design is back here as well, in case you have any questions for them. We're here to talk about 4 parcels, in particular the office buildings behind what we call the Mission Kids property. They have purchased that. We want to redevelop this property. We went to council in April, made this presentation to them, asked them for a rezoning of this property to D-residential, and discuss with them what we're going to show you tonight. I'm going to let Sal do most of the talking, but council saw merit in our application. We submitted a zoning text amendment or map amendment for the rezoning of this property so that we could redevelop it. We know that municipalities across the region are having a shortage of housing. There's vacancies. Office primarily has been driving the tax revenue down, and this gives an opportunity for us to finally settle this property. In particular, there's been previous applications, as you probably know. They have fallen short, and now, we want to avoid a blight and finally resolve the property. We want to protect Mission Kids. Sal's going to talk to you about conversations he's had with them. We know that connectivity and trails are important to the township. We know that in the event we are successful with the rezoning, we have a land development process to go through. We're going to show you what we think is a good idea of what the plan will look like, but we know that'll be tweaked as we would go through the land development process. But we know that we have stormwater issues to deal with. We know that we'll have less impervious coverage, and we know that connectivity is important. But we think this is an opportunity to support Plymouth's commercial businesses, and that we can finally resolve this in a way that we think makes sense from a planning perspective. So the Payons are not new to Plymouth Township, and I'll turn it over to Sal, who will show you what we have in mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's good to see you all. It's been a couple of years since we've been working in Plymouth. We finished a project a few years ago up on Plymouth Road, which is adjacent to this site. I've worked with some of you in the past. There's some new faces, so thanks for having us. Joel, do you mind pulling up the PowerPoint? Thank you.
And that's on screens in front of you, right? Oh, it's behind you, too.
So the property we're talking about is 4 parcels. There are 4 separate lots. There is 1 office building on each lot. We'll show you an aerial of what that looks like. Currently, it's owned by EQT Real Estate, which is a new name for the Exeter Property Group, which has been in Plymouth Township for a number of years, in Montgomery County for a number of years. They are an industrial office and commercial redevelopment company. They've owned this property since before we developed Plymouth Valley Estates. So they've had it for a long time, and as Kristen mentioned, it's been primarily vacant for the entire time that they had it. To give you an idea of what we're talking about, this is an aerial view of the site and the surrounding area. On the screen, kind of in the middle of the page, there is a red outline around the property. I'm going to call it like almost like a triangle, an arrow, or a spade shovel with the point cut off. There are 5 office buildings towards almost in a row on the bottom portion of the property. The Mission Kids property is the one towards the top, closest to Plymouth Road. Plymouth Road kind of runs diagonal across almost the middle of the screen. The Pennsylvania Turnpike is towards the bottom. To give you a better idea on a close-up, what I was pointing at before, Again, Plymouth Road is kind of towards the top right of the screen. The USI Insurance Services that's labeled from the Google map is actually the Mission Kids building. The site overall is 38 acres plus or minus. As I mentioned, there's 5 buildings. The Mission Kids project that they're going to start on, I think, in the pretty near future is actually amazing. We've met with Mission Kids. They're an incredible organization. Their growth has been remarkable since they started, and what they're going to be doing here is not only going to be a great service to Plymouth Township, but it's going to be a great service to the county and actually, in their plans, the country. So it's really, really exciting. We had a great meeting. We showed them our plan. They are very well aware of it, and we actually are at the point where we have a signed agreement with them. And it's kind of like an agreement of understanding, that they know what we're proposing. There are some small changes that would happen that are on their property. They're aware of it. They're okay with it, and they're very much in support of the project. I believe before we presented to council back in April, they sent an email to the township manager expressing their support. This site previously was approved and has an approval to demolish 525 and 527 Plymouth Road, which are the 2 buildings closest to the Pennsylvania Turnpike. There's an approval in there for a 5-story up to a 7-story office building that would be a new 245,000 square foot building. That would take the current total of 185,000 square feet to 354,000 square feet on the site. I believe that EQT Real Estate also came in, tried to talk about some apartments that wasn't very well received, which led to our actually first presentation to council back in May of 2024. It was pretty general in concept. We then continued to work with EQT Real Estate, which brought us to 2025 and the meeting Kristen mentioned in April, and then our subsequent application, which is why we're here tonight. When we have worked on our projects over the years, this area of Montgomery County, the days of farmlands and wide open spaces are gone, right? So most of the projects we work on are infill. Most of the projects are involving some type of zoning change or text amendment. In this case, there's no text amendment involved. It is just a map amendment, and our plan, which we'll show you, is fully compliant, we believe. But when we get into these redevelopment projects or infill projects, we really try to be thoughtful. It's not a matter of just trying to maximize the density or getting as much as we can get on there. We try to look at what's happening in the county, what's happening in the township, what the goals are, and what makes sense. So what we do is we start with the Monco 2040, which is the current comprehensive plan for Montgomery County. And this area of Plymouth Township, according to Monco 2040, is considered to be a regional mixed-use center. There's a number of different uses that could be considered, according to the County Planning Commission, as a regional mixed-use center. One of them is townhouses. This is an excerpt from Monco 2040 showing the full county area and the map. There's I think it's red, sorry, I'm a little colorblind, circle around this area of Plymouth Township and showing the regional mixed-use center. What I also did, and I apologize that I don't have it in your PowerPoint, but we took a look at Plymouth 2040. And thank you for putting Cold Point Village on your cover. That was a great little surprise when we saw that. We appreciate it. That was an exciting project we did. And I'm sure you're familiar with it, so I'll keep it brief going through your own comprehensive plan. But Plymouth 2040 and Monco 2040, according to the comprehensive plan, should complement each other when it comes to future land use. Monco 2040 is consistent with the township's future land use as well. As I go through, about 15% of the homes in Plymouth Township are townhouses. And in the comprehensive plan, townhouses are considered to be an attractive housing choice for many households in the area. Interestingly, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission did a study and calculates that almost 2,300 individuals will add to the population of Plymouth Township by 2045. Based on the analysis, it's estimated that 1,410 new housing units are needed to support that population growth, which would be 47 housing units per year for 30 years. And that assumes that for the last 10 years, those housing units have been built. I don't have that data. My guess would be maybe not, but there would be 20 years left of 47 housing units per year. And the recommendation in the comprehensive plan is that, it's recommendation number 3, is to provide sufficient housing opportunities to meet the housing needs of the forecasted population growth. So that's kind of where we start. And then what we do is we look at what is around the property. So here's the township zoning map. And then zooming in, there's a very interesting transition that occurs in this area. And I'm kind of emphasize the transition concept when it comes to the zoning. So highlighted through the middle of your screen or the middle of the page, going diagonal, is the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And from the bottom right to the top left, there's an interchange development. There are apartments, which is Sussex Square. This office laboratory piece, highlighted in, again, I believe it's red, and if it's green, I apologize, is the overall parcel. So the Mission Kids office would be included in that space. And then further up the turnpike is a D residential property, Ashley Way and Donna Drive, which is townhouses. It's almost contiguous. There's a very small parcel in between. And then let's call it to Plan North or to the top side is B residential and A residential. So we look at the suggested rezoning for this parcel, and it seems to be a very good, well-planned out transitional use to go from the interchange and the apartments to the townhouse uses, which would, again, almost be contiguous along Pennsylvania Turnpike, which would buffer the B residential and the A residential that go beyond these areas. The B residential site is the Plymouth Valley Estate site that we built a couple of years ago. Okay, so on the screen is our plan that we put together, and this was not a let's just put units on there and make them fit. Land Corps did a really, really good job analyzing the D residential district and the ordinance requirements. We were extremely thoughtful about stormwater. There is a stormwater basin on the site today that is in the top right portion of the proposed development site. It's below Sussex Square or in between Sussex Square and the Turnpike. So there is existing stormwater that handles this site today. The existing office laboratory note, that's the Mission Kids building. Sussex Square is to the top right, and then this is Alexander Drive to the top left below Plymouth Road, which was one half of Plymouth Valley Estates. What we're proposing is that the Mission Kids building would remain, of course. We don't own that. That's going to be on just short of 9 acres, leaving about 29 and a half acres left for development. This plan shows 159 townhouses, comprised of 3 to 4 bedroom units, 2.5 to 3.5 bathrooms, and 1 or 2 car garages. There's 2 footprints on this plan. Closer to the Turnpike, we are showing a footprint that is 24 by 40. It's a 3-story unit. There's garage underneath. They're about 2,250 to 2,400 square feet, similar to what we built off of Butler Pike and Plymouth Row behind the CVS. Closer to Alexander Drive, on the left side of the page, that footprint is 26 by 54. They could be a little deeper in some places and get to maybe 60 feet. Those units are 2,250 to 2,500 square feet. They are 2 stories. And we have the 2 types of units, again, thinking about that transition, closer to the Turnpike, one price point, closer to Alexander Drive, a higher price point. I told you that we did look at stormwater. There are additional stormwater management areas shown on this plan. One of them is below Mission Kids, one of them at the bottom of the page, kind of at the corner or the little armpit where North Gravers Road and Pennsylvania Turnpike come together. And we also show an expanded area on the existing basin. So we really put some time into stormwater. We believe that we would be able to manage all the stormwater very, very well. Today, the access to North Gravers Road is right at the bend. If you're looking at your screens, the D in road for North Gravers Road, it's just to the right of that and just above it, right here for those in the audience. We're proposing to move that further towards the left or up the hill on North Gravers Road a little bit, kind of right in the middle of the word Gravers. If you're looking at your screen, it would give far better sight distance, a much safer location for the community to access the site. We would also maintain the access up through the Mission Kids property out to Plymouth Road. And again, they're aware of that. They understand that. There's no issue there. There's a slight realignment of that road to move it away from the Mission Kids building. They like this idea because we add a large green space in between our community, or proposed community, excuse me, and their building. That would primarily be landscaped, and they're happy about that buffer. Sidewalk would connect to Plymouth Road. We understand the importance of that, especially with the elementary school close by. This plan shows sidewalk on what we're going to call the more populated side of the road. One of the comments we got from council a couple of months ago is that they would really like to see sidewalk on both sides of the street. That's not a problem. We can accommodate that. We held a 50-foot separation between all of these buildings. The ordinance has a requirement that if any windows are across from each other, you have to have 50 feet. If there are, you don't have windows across from each other, I think you can go to 35. We kept it at 50 to be safe, so this is the most conservative approach we could take. This plan shows 5.35 dwelling units per gross acre, 6.88 units per developable acre. The ordinance permits 8. We don't need to go that high. We don't have any intention of going that high. As I mentioned earlier, we believe it's fully zoning compliant. We are not suggesting or requesting any text amendments to the D residential district. And really important, especially with a community of this size, parking. You can comply with the ordinance by having enough parking spaces, but are they in the right places? Entertainment, Super Bowl parties, birthdays, whatever celebration there might be, right? If the parking is not accessible, then people park in the street, and it creates a mess. We have the parking scattered throughout the community, all over pretty consistently on different sides of the street so that it's accessible to all of the different homes. I can't say we can accommodate the biggest event, but it's certainly thoughtful about how the parking is spread out around the community. Sorry, making sure I got everything covered. Moving on, coverage comparisons. So we've all been in these meetings a lot, right? Impervious coverage, green space, open space, traffic, stormwater. Those are always big questions. So our proposal shows a reduction in the impervious coverage from what is there today. That's not the 245,000 square foot office building that isn't built. That is what's there today compared to what we are proposing. That is a 5.7% reduction in impervious, almost 2 acres. The building coverage does increase slightly, about not even 3%, to 14.6% of the site. 35% is permitted, so we're way below what would be permitted by the ordinance. The green space area increases by almost 60,000 square feet, almost an acre and a half, almost a 6% increase in green space. Open space, we're showing 28.3%, where 20% is required, and that does not include stormwater management facilities. We talked about parking before. 350 spaces are required, 350 spaces are proposed. That's parking spaces around the community and driveway areas. The ordinance does not permit the use of garages in the parking calculation. So if you really take it all into consideration, there are more than 500 places to park if you only assume a one-car garage. And some of these units will have two-car garages. That 26 by 54-foot unit is designed as a two-car garage. So there is more than ample parking on the site. When you start to take all this into consideration, you start to think about stormwater, the design would have a net positive effect on the stormwater calculations and the impact that stormwater has in the area. Next, we come to traffic. So Traffic Planning Design did a trip generation study comparing the existing site as it is today, the previously approved development proposal with the larger office buildings, to what we are proposing. In all cases, there is a reduction in trip generation and traffic. In the hundreds, and in the average weekday when you compare to the current proposal to the previously approved, more than 2,000 trips per day on average, a reduction in traffic. It's really nice to sit here and talk about less traffic, not more. And then the last thing we looked at were real estate taxes. So EQT Real Estate was able to have the properties reassessed at the county level. Currently, the total real estate taxes for the offices is $157,628. If I were to, I did a calculation using Cold Point Village as the comparison. That assessed value is about $625,000. And if we were successful in getting the project approved, the total tax increase to Plymouth Township, the county, and the school district would be almost $1 million. Needless to say, this is a great area. The schools, the services, we're excited about the opportunity to work again in Plymouth Township. To give you an idea of architecture, because I'm sure that's a consideration, this is the 3-story unit that we talked about. This is the 24-foot by 40-foot units that we designed. We use these footprints. This is what we built at Village Station behind the CVS at Butler Pike and Plymouth Road. Most likely, if we were successful in getting the approval, we would take the architecture and individualize the units a little bit more. But the unit designs on the inside really, really turned out well. They were very well received. We were very excited about them. This is a rendering of what the kitchen looks like. It's an actual rendering based on our designs. This is the family room area, dining area, looking back into the kitchen. They're a really nice open floor plan. And then the 26-foot by 54-foot unit, this is a site that we're building right now, actually in Horsham Township, currently called the Preserve at Maple Glen. And this is an idea of what those units look like. So we would marry up the architecture to, complement each other with finishes, colors, materials, etc. We anticipate that the 3-story units would start in the upper 500s and sell into the 600s, and that the units that you're looking at right now would start in the mid 600s and go up from there. We would expect, and this is based on the communities we've built in the area, that usually we see a move-up buyer. We get first-time buyers as well, but we would expect to have move-up buyers and definitely some empty nesters. In Horsham Township, we have a lot of empty nesters that are buying this product right now. The biggest thing that we're excited about with this project is just eliminating the vacancy. EQT Real Estate has had this property for longer than we worked on Plymouth Valley Estates. They were actually helpful in getting us those approvals with sanitary sewer and stormwater connections. They're a big company. If they could have leased these spaces, I'm sure they would have. They were not successful doing that. 2 of the buildings are completely vacant. The other 2 have very little occupancy. So we would be able to eliminate the vacancy, increase the tax base, and avoid condemnation by neglect. We could avoid the IKEA that's over by the mall that's been sitting there. I'm sure we're all familiar with it. I don't want to be harsh, but it's kind of like a blight on the township. So to get rid of that and have something going in here that has all these positive effects, we feel would be a very successful and positive outcome for the township. So that's kind of everything we have. We're certainly happy to answer questions. Oh, sorry. This is what the inside of the larger unit looks like for one of them. Again, very open concept. Happy to answer questions. Again, we tried to be really thoughtful about what we brought to you tonight. I'd like to say we thought of everything. Maybe we didn't. Probably didn't.
Oh, any comments from the township? Lonnie?
I think you answered my question in your presentation. The 50-foot separation, is that why we have clusters of 4 and 5 and 6 to maintain that 50-foot separation?
Yeah, we would be able to maintain the 50 feet.
Right.
Yeah,
But some clusters have 6 units, some have 5, some have 4.
correct.
Is that why? Because you have 50-foot separation that you're trying to maintain?
No, it's not really why. It's just kind of what fit. Yeah, I mean, as we go through land development, we expect that with grading, this might change a little bit, but, we didn't grade the site. We haven't gone that far yet. If we have a chance to, maintain the density and reduce the size of buildings, we would certainly try to do that.
That's it.
Brian?
No questions, thanks.
Brittany?
Is there any proposed clubhouse or playground possibly? I don't see it on here now, but is there potential for using much?
Not a clubhouse. We try to stay away from clubhouses because a lot of times that becomes a burden on the association. They're great for marketing, and you put these pretty pictures up of a clubhouse, and then all of a sudden, costs continue to rise and repairs are needed to those buildings, and that becomes a real weight on the residents. So we're not proposing a clubhouse. Council did ask us about a playground area. That is something that we're definitely going to look into.
You know, some extra amenity space, especially for this kind
Yes,
of potential home buyer.
that is something we're definitely going to look into.
That's all I have.
Just a couple questions now. Is this not age restricted?
Not age restricted.
Initially, you said there was 38 acres in the site, but I think you were inclusive of the Mission Kids site.
Correct. So what's
So you're 29, I have from county records, 29.18.
yeah? It sounds right.
And a couple, just trying to verify, because what is this 50-foot strip that goes out to Plymouth Road? It's not cut through all the way.
So 531 Plymouth Road is this property here, the building farthest to the left. Sorry, my pointer's losing its juice. It's the building closest to the Pico right-of-way, farthest left. I believe that 50-foot strip was created back in the 70s when this subdivision was approved, so that property had the street frontage that was required by ordinance. We did talk to Mission Kids about possibly deeding that to them. That's something that is on the table. We all agreed that we would wait until we got into land development should we be successful at zoning. For them, the important part is a buffer. They really want to have a buffer from Alexander Drive.
Fire lane from the dog station.
Correct. Yes. That is an emergency access. But we're not, that dotted line that you see going out there, that's not a trail or anything. That's actually the setback that's required. But we would not propose or suggest doing anything with that property. We would leave it natural. There's a lot of mature trees in there. That is a buffer between next level construction, which is the office on Plymouth Road, that little rectangular parcel that says A residential district.
Right, and we maintain, hey, there's a neighbor on this end, but over here, right, this is a residential home.
Yes. So we would keep that as a buffer, or want to keep that as a buffer.
Mission Kids is going to maintain their current zone.
They will retain their current. No, they're not. And their property line is not changing.
It's just that road may alter that.
Correct.
That's a couple of things, but nothing that's the concept. You got buildings that are just wasting away. It's sad, actually. I think the biggest concern we're going to hear is traffic. Okay, do you have any perception of where the traffic would flow out of this? I mean, would 50% go out Plymouth Road and head to the Germantown Pike? Do you have any vision of that at this point?
I'll let Matt Hammond comment on that a little bit when I'm done. You know, with the Blue Route and Germantown Pike probably being the primary draw, my thought would be it would go out that way. But we do have two access points. So if anybody's going out towards Gravers Road, Gallagher Road, they could go down North Gravers. Matt, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do.
Okay.
Good evening.
Please step up to the microphone,
Oh,
please.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Good evening. As Sal had shown, so far we've looked at, the trip comparisons, looking at the existing site, the previously approved development, as well as the proposed use of the property. We have not yet done a traffic study. Obviously, if we're successful to move forward and through the process through the land development, we'll prepare a traffic study, working with the township on the scope and the study areas and whatnot. But preliminarily, I would say that we would probably see somewhere in a 60-40 split from a traffic perspective, 60% up to Plymouth Road and 40 down to Gravers. But that will really be borne out in the traffic study when the traffic counts are done during the peak hours and we determine, what the actual traffic patterns are, where are people coming from and going to. So if I had to guess, like I said, about a 60-40 split, but if we're successful in moving forward, we'll have all of those documents prepared and the traffic counts done, and we'll actually be able to say, yes, it's this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a residents that get overwhelmed with traffic. I think that's okay. Anything we can do to improve or at least modify the acceleration lane, signalization, and so forth.
Understood. And I hesitate to say, but I think almost every application I'm involved in, traffic is a concern. But from the traffic study perspective, again, if we're able to move forward, when we complete that study, that'll look at the access points, not only the existing access point on Plymouth, but the proposed access on Gravers. And then if deceleration lanes, turn lanes, radius improvements, signal improvements at off-site intersections, things of that nature are necessary to help improve traffic flow through the area, then that's something that we'll absolutely entertain. But I would, again, point out the fact that I think there's a lot of residents in that immediate vicinity that are used to the fact that there's not a significant amount of traffic coming in or going out of that development. It's not to say tomorrow that couldn't change and the office market picks up and those buildings are fully occupied. But this proposal does propose to generate significantly less traffic than what could be here and what has been previously approved.
Can we get a copy of those, as part of that presentation, the traffic projections, what existing and what we approved? Actually, the whole presentation. Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. So, I can refer back. That's all I have.
I can add to one thing, if you don't mind. When we did Plymouth Valley Estates, we did do a significant number of traffic improvements out on Plymouth Road, pedestrian crosswalks, signalization for the crosswalks, for the school zone. And Plymouth Road from Johnson all the way across the frontage of this property, including the Mission Kids property, is fully widened on, let's call it our side of Plymouth Road. So that is there today. And then when we did the Sebastian Lane side from Johnson Road up to the Pico right-of-way, which is the end of the 6 houses that we built on North Gravers, that road was completely rebuilt. Milled, overlaid, base repairs, pretty extensive job. So I know in that area at least, the roads are as improved as they can be.
Is this going to be a homeowners association development?
I would assume so. The association would most likely take care of all the stormwater management. I believe in Plymouth Township, the township owns the sanitary sewer systems. Aqua Pennsylvania would take care of the water. As much as I would like Plymouth Township to take the roads, my guess is that they would remain private. I'm sure Mr. Lasciava doesn't need to take care of more roads. And so the association would own the road system. There is currently an association that governs the office park. So in our discussions with Mission Kids, we did talk about how that declaration of planned community would be amended and restated. And we agreed on different responsibilities and who would handle different things and how that would all work. So we're very much aligned with them as well. They're aware of that.
So looking at the roads, I see the connection at North Gravers. Now, for Plymouth Road, do you have 2 roads? What is the vertical strip? Is that a road or?
That's a 50-foot appendage, basically. That's the question.
It's just a legal strip that's part of the property, but we're not proposing to develop that. The road system that is kind of faded, man, I can't believe this is out, is right in here. There's a circle when you come in off of
You're
Plymouth Road.
sharing with the Mission Kids.
Yes, we would share with Mission Kids. Maintain that, as part of that association.
Do these 2 main residential properties on Plymouth Road have any coordinating with them?
Well, the A residential property
Yes.
that's the rectangle closest to Mission Kids, in between Mission Kids and Alexander Drive, that's actually not a residential home. That's next level construction. They receive a number of use variances. So that's a construction office, and there's some construction equipment in the large parking lot in the rear. We've worked with them, know them well, and are fully aligned. The other residential property, we have not spoken to them, no.
That's it.
Questions, Al? Are these more expensive, or is that the topography dropping off there? Is that why there's going to be, the ones that back into the turnpike, these units, are they going to be larger, you said?
Those are the smaller footprint.
Small.
Yeah, they're the 24-foot by 40-foot footprints, the 3-story units.
Is it 3-story there because of the way the ground slopes, or?
No, it's just a smaller footprint, and when you have that size, if it were 2 stories, there would be some rooms that would probably be compromised. You want to see a little bit deeper than 40 feet when you're at 24 feet wide. So
If you look closely, there is a color differential. The smaller ones are a little lighter brown, yeah. And
What's the structure here?
stormwater basin.
stormwater.
There's a building on this side.
I don't believe so.
There is today, right, Steve?
Correct.
Yeah, there's a building today.
Maintenance building?
Yeah, I was there today. The maintenance building for who? For the office?
For the offices.
In your best estimate, how many kids will be in this development?
Well, historically, our communities get split. We do see some empty nesters. So I would probably go with a 60-40 split on that number. So
The average
60
of 1.5 kids?
Yeah, so 100, 150?
Has there been any conversations with the school district about impact to the schools and their current size and?
We have not had those conversations yet, no.
Any questions from the audience? Any comments? Please step forward, state your name and address, and speak into the microphone, please.
Hey, Jared Ricci, 1819 Johnson Road. So live around the corner
I'm
about,
sorry, it was H.R. Tucci?
not close, no.
Okay, could you try it
Jared
again?
Ricci, R-I-C-C-I,
And what was your address?
1819 Johnson.
Thank you.
So been there about 15 years, have observed a lot of what's going on. Good presentation, but of course he's selling, right? And I'm not against it. And I wasn't against the Driscoll, which I don't like it. I mean, you guys changed all the setbacks, but I have more issue with the process of how it goes through and the limited notification that goes out to the residents around the area. I mean, there was a point when it was conditional approval, and don't say you don't stick houses in, because at one point it was 200 and some townhomes, right? And then it came to be what's there. But it came out of the blue for us residents a little bit. So I'm just dropping off letters to neighbors to say, are you even aware? Because it's a little stake in the ground with a white 8.5 by 11 notification. This impacts everybody. So I'm not against it. The only thing I don't see, for those of us in the township that came to the traffic calming study or town hall, we all use cut-throughs. I go through there all the time to get down the hill, all the time. There's no road now that goes straight through there. Plus, when I do drive through there, you see a cop that sits either in where the maintenance building is or right behind the Cooney brothers. So I anticipate those houses that now, from the development, are saying, oh, people are speeding. And now what's going to happen when you add this many more homes? So develop it. I think it's great. It hasn't been just sitting there because they did redo all the facade of those buildings 2 years ago. We do know since COVID, business community's still not back yet. We have a foreclosed hotel down the street. The office complex on Plymouth Road has Brayburn and some other businesses. To me, the parking lot is starting to look fuller. Does that mean they would release these out as is? Probably not, is my take. So I'm not against the development, but it's nice to come in with numbers and statistics and here's what's worked or not versus 15 years of seeing what's happened with different things and how people do start navigating, right? And for me, now I'm going to flip around as fast as I can to get back down the hill without a cut through. So I think those types of elements need incorporated in the design, which as soon as I saw the map, I'm like, that's the thing missing for me. I think when you heard traffic, you brought up traffic, those are elements that there aren't ordinances within zoning for how to deal with helping the traffic calming that we are having in our region. So change the zoning, fine. But I think the setbacks were, what I hated the most about, I call it Vinyl City because you forgot a fence. Everybody forgot to put a fence around it. I mean, the zoning was fence after fence after fence. So the entire perimeter now is like fencing. But the setbacks were all changed to accommodate those homes fitting the way they do. And I feel personally, the community, yeah, we got tax revenue, but nothing more. I remember at one point the presentations were going to fix the corner. All right, you rounded off the sidewalk. I don't even know if there's a sidewalk there, but it was rounded off. Adding a sidewalk here I don't consider as like a huge benefit to the community, though that road is dangerous to walk. I've taken my dog down it 50 times because you kind of swerve around the vegetation in that little middle part there. But those are types of things I don't think come across on paper. They don't come across on the traffic numbers. It's how people use the place. And I think some of that needs incorporated more as we look forward. We did Plymouth 2040. I was a participant in that. So I'm trying to be a little more vocal and along with the process rather than feeling I get caught off guard and things just get shoehorned in, which is how Driscoll felt to a lot of people around the neighborhood. But I just want to voice that opinion, and I'll keep looking out for the next whatever so I can continue to see where things advance. But like I said, I think it's a great idea overall. For what I feel is missing, though, I see nothing that shows how to connect what is there now.
So thanks for that, and I appreciate to see where we end up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Linda Trembath. I'm at 9 Camelot Drive in Plymouth Hills neighborhood. And I'm here as a squeaky wheel because when I found out about this on Facebook, Talking Plymouth at like 5 o'clock, and alerted my neighbors and all my other friends that are in that area off of Plymouth Road that are concerned, and I read all the comments, everyone was really disappointed at the lack of notice and short notice, and I felt I needed to come and at least be a little bit of a voice. I even wrote on there, no one's going to read your Facebook comments, but really need to kind of get it out there about our huge concern of just, again, overcrowdedness and traffic. I've lived in Plymouth Hills for 30 years. I've watched Plymouth be such a wonderful place. It still is a wonderful place, but it's just getting out of control with the building. And leaving my house each morning at 7:30 from Lawn Fall just to get down to the Turnpike entrance takes 15 minutes some days, and that's not counting these 600 and some more cars that could be on the road. If you figure I'm a 4-car household with, if 4 at each one of these condos, that's not even including the new apartments that are going to be going across the street at the mall. So the thought of 600 and some plus the mall traffic, and then I can't even get out of my neighborhood to get to work. Then I also, in the morning, as I'm trying to get on the Turnpike, the Blue Route entrance is usually backed up. And I've watched people trying to get off of Plymouth Road and accidents. Just even getting in and out of the mall is difficult. So that alone is concerning to me. The overcrowdedness of schools. Luckily, my children are grown and through Colonial, which was a wonderful school district. I know that draws a lot of people here, but we keep building. There's not going to be any place for them to build another school, which clearly is going to need to be the case. I mean, soon I'll be an empty nester, but I don't think I'm moving into a $600,000 plus house. But also just, and even not even the schools, but the fact that the hospitals are really overcrowded. My friend on Eagle Road who wanted to be here tonight had said she was in the ER at Einstein, or whatever the new name is, for 8 hours. There were no beds. She said people were understaffed, people were overworked. She had to go in again with her daughter. She was another 8 hours. So I think those are things that we need to consider. Yes, it looks beautiful on paper, but some green space would be nice. We don't have to build every little bit of Plymouth Township to make it be a wonderful place. I feel like it's just kind of gotten out of control, and I really hope you take those facts in consideration when you're making decisions. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing no more, do we have a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion to council not to approve the zoning map amendment for this property located at 523, 525, 527, and 531.
Do we have a second? Hearing no second, that motion doesn't carry. Do we have a motion? Any other motion? Having no motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the city council recommendation for approval and further review for traffic studies and all engineering. This is just preliminary, as it establishes zone change.
Do we have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
1 nay. Motion carries.
Thank you. We hope to see you again soon for land development where we can produce more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is approving the minutes from last month. Does anybody have any comments or Questions on the minutes? We have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the June minutes. I can't remember the date. June 4th minutes.
Second? Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Do we have anything else to discuss, or? With that, the meeting is adjourned.
Happy 4th.
Thank you.